So it's just the restaurant.
Is that?
So everything has to be unanimous, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've got it.
I don't have enough room for mine yet. So having two
Hmm?
votes.
No. What is it?
It's not good. I know when I rewatch it, it's really, really hard to hear us.
How about now?
Can you hear me? Sound check. Yeah. I know I'm on. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check.
You can? I'm not even talking.
Sound check.
I wasn't even talking. Oh.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna get going here. Oh. Rich is talking. All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Durham Town Select Board meeting on 10/24. When we all rise, say pledge of allegiance. I need a microphone that I can walk around with. Let me see here. I'm gonna let's see. We have a quorum is established, and amendments to the agenda. I'm going to make one amendment this evening, which is we are not going to discuss the 12 Rabbit Road setback violation. That is heading to the appeals board. And if we need to get involved, we will, but hopefully it'll be resolved there. That meeting is TBD at this point for that to occur. Any other amendments? Nope, okay. All right, we're going to go public comments. Neil, certainly. Step right up to the mic. Okay.
I wrote this out to keep it brief. My name is Neil Berry. I live on Stackpole Road, and I have a couple of ordinance suggestions for you guys to think about. First is to create an emergency spending policy and ordinance. We have an emergency fund, but my understanding, which I think is accurate, is the select board doesn't have permission to spend any money from it. So the last time it was mentioned was at a town meeting in 2020. That was, I think, the write-in vote. It was Article 7. We added money to it, and the article said we could tap it with the budget committee and your vote. But my understanding again is that needs to be in the warrant every year to allow access to it. So I would suggest we write an ordinance allowing the select board to access that fund. The second one, by far more important for me, is an ordinance banning commercial solar farms. Outside of financial, the motivation for these is to mitigate a phony climate crisis, the biggest and most costly scam in human history. There is no climate crisis, anthropogenic or otherwise. Solar farms are ugly and a wasteful, heavily subsidized by you and me, costly source of electricity. The only people benefiting from them are the farm owners and the solar panel manufacturers, the largest being the Chinese Communist Party. The town would benefit greatly by letting the planning board and the CEO focus on other more important issues, and would help maintain the rural character of Durham. We have too many important issues to worry about rather than hassle with solar farms. If you want some scientific fact-based information on climate change, I would refer you to, especially the CO2 hoax, I'd refer you to Professor William Happer from Princeton and Professor Richard Linston of MIT. That's my story.
Do you mind?
Thank you, Neil.
Is that fine? Can you leave that so that we can get a copy of Josh and Joe?
Thank you, Neil. Have a good evening.
Neil.
Appreciate it. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Let's see, we have reports from the Road Commission and Fire Chief. I will leave it up to the two of you to decide who goes first. Calvin, step right up. Talk loud into that microphone. Your fan base is anxious to hear what you have to say. Oh, happy birthday, by the way, yes. Or is that just the Road Commissioner's Facebook page? It's a birthday.
Oh, that's my birthday.
That's your birthday. Well, happy birthday.
I don't know how I found out, but whoever
It
set
knew.
whoever set it up must have known, but I don't recall putting any of that in there. So we've been out working on gravel roads.
we've gone up and gotten them, tomorrow, we're gonna be working on them the rest of this week, so to keep them passable. This year with all the rain we've had a lot of potholes and a lot of, had more difficulty keeping those, in shape. We helped out the Little League over here with hauling off a bunch of material, setting up all the barricades and posts and all that to keep motorcycles and other motorized vehicles off the grass. It's really nice. We'll leave that up there for a while until we can take those down and the grass is well rooted. We've hauled our winter sand, put that up for the winter. That's all up and put away. Cooperation with the fire department, we are now in possession of their old training cargo trailer, something they got from the grant. I'm sure he can probably tell you more about it than I can. So we would like to, we've always wanted a trailer, a sign trailer to have set up for emergency events that we can just hook on and go and put up barricades, cones, and detour signs and things like that. So that will be all set up once we get done tearing it apart and working on some of the interior stuff. We attended the Snow and Ice Control MDOT class, Maine Local Roads Division with several other municipalities. We learned, you always learn something new. You watch the same movie 5 times, you see something you didn't see last time. So you can't go too many times. But I think the crew learned a lot. That helps get buy-in from the team, so they're not just doing what they're told. They understand why we do it. I think that goes a long way. We've added, I posted on the town website, DPW, looking for seasonal plow drivers like we do every year. Hope that we always get more. And believe it or not, we're still mowing grass. I just mowed mine again at home. It grew an inch in like a week. I said, mowing the grass isn't growing now, so that's usually over quite a while ago. So we've been putting headgear. Today we worked on headgear. The trucks are ready to roll. Get headgear, spinners, all that yesterday and today. Getting them ready to roll in case we have a freezing rain or snow event, which could happen anytime now. Halloween could show up and give us 6 inches, like happened a few years ago. So we're ready on that. And that's all I got.
Okay. Yeah, the field came out really nice. Thank you for all your help on that. And roads are looking good.
Calvin, do you know if they plan on putting the fence back in the ground before winter?
Yep, that's their plan. I guess I can't answer that. I mean, that was the way I understood when we discussed it, but whether that changes or whether they decide to wait till spring, I can't answer that question. I know that was the intention back when we talked, so.
They're
All right.
actually gonna bring in more material, and they're gonna use this parking lot and cut across this field to do it. Once they do that, I think that's something that we want.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Calvin. Have a great night. Keep up the good work.
Anyway, if you wanna make a trail through there, whatever. Don't let it go over the fence.
Chief,
How we doing?
we're doing great.
I'll just add to Calvin, for the trailer, the fire department got a grant 20 years ago, it was a 2004 trailer. It hasn't been used in a decade. So that was for public education, complete from FEMA, had tables in it and whatnot, and they used it, and then parked it. We haven't used it, we don't have a use for it. So collaboratively, we decided to deed it over to Public Works. However, they're gonna fix it up and then we can still use it for road signs and blockades and whatnot. So the common trailer hitch, now that the utility's here, we can just hook it up in case we had another, Newellbrook Road or something collapses or flooding, we can help out. So that's what that came from. I looked into it, that's okay for the municipality to gift it or deed it to the same municipality, just different department. So FEMA doesn't have a problem with it.
Okay, great.
A week and a half ago, Saturday the 14th, the fire department held its annual open house to the public, also Public Education Day, to coincide with the yearly Club Ed. It was well attended and positive remarks online. I appreciate the positivity on the Facebook. The Union Church project, I see it's on the agenda. As far as the fire department goes, we're still updating deficiencies found in our inspection. So that included exterior numbers have been added to the church from the Public Works. And we have an appointment this Thursday. I'll be there with the fire alarm company to certify it and check the fire alarm system side of the Union Church. So it hasn't been checked according to them in 5 years. It hasn't been certified, checked. They still monitor it, but, you know, smoke alarms need changing every 10 years, that type of stuff. We'll see if it needs carbon monoxide added. So we have an appointment.
Okay.
I've been going through the town manager for that. The fire department, the service license for the rescue has been approved and updated in another year. Annually, that has to be approved through state EMS, and that includes updated safety plans, our medical control contract with our doctor, and numerous policy and procedure updates. Again, we mandated to contract with a physician for medical control. Ours is Dr. Giverson from Midcoast. And that comes with a fee, that type of thing, but we're already up and running for next year. And enclosed in your packet, I know everyone's been talking about it, so I tried to go light, is the latest mutual aid run numbers, if you will. So that's given and received for both the EMS side and the fire side. There are a couple of outliers, sort of. So if you look at that first page where it says fire mutual aid received, those first 6, it says Brunswick, Freeport, Lisbon, they're all the same. That's 6 incidents, really. That's 6 fires. But the math, you know, is adding those up to 18. You see how that is? But in theory, that's really 6 calls. And then you can see all the other departments that we've used. In the Meadow Street fire, if you just start from the bottom, every one of those was at the Meadow Street fire.
Yeah.
So the Meadow Street really is an outlier because that brought in the North Yarmouth, all those guys, as far as to the scene. Next to that, you can see the EMS mutual aid received, so that means calling for a mutual aid rescue. What you don't see in that is Durham having 5 simultaneous calls. So recently, we had a double hit, I call it, but simultaneous calls. So we take one and our mutual aid partners take the other. And also 3 of those calls, the rescue was out of service. And I think it was all one day for maintenance. I think we had a motor vehicle accident that took 2 mutual aid, another call. It just, statistics, the way it
Happens.
falls. But you can see how many times we've received from the local departments. The next form is telling, because it really states how many fire mutual aid we give. And that's really, we've been to 19 mutual aid fires so far, and we've given 9 station coverage. So that's 28 times we've been called out of town. And that usually recalls most of the fire department, because some go out of town, myself or the deputy will go out, and then the other half will stay in town to provide coverage always for Durham. And then the EMS mutual aid given, you can see how many times we go to the area departments. I know Lisbon is high, I've gone to Freeport a couple times, Auburn now 3, Pownell a couple times. And Pownell is actually contracted with Freeport. So it says going to Pownell, but that's because Freeport's not available. United is the private company that's, you know, Lewiston, so we've been there 6 times. So we have provided 42 mutual aid rescues as compared to taking 14.
I'm trying to read between the lines. I know that you're a strong advocate of mutual aid, and I agree. I'm just trying to understand if this disproportionate is being pointed out for us to have a bigger conversation about this. Because when we're doing mutual aid, giving and receiving, we're not charging and we're not being charged.
Correct, so,
Are you pointing this stuff out because you want us to have that type of
No.
conversation around this? Okay.
no, it's legitimate, just what the numbers
Just
say.
that, okay.
It's not pinpointing a certain agency or somebody lacking, it's just what we provide.
Okay.
So if I read this right, they're about even, in and out, right?
Well, you know,
I mean, just.
They are, because
At a high level, they're really
I have,
close,
you have to
for
include
numbers.
mutual aid received, so rescue
Yeah.
received, you really have to count the 12 ALS backups. So
Yeah.
what that means is we'll call for a paramedic. We didn't have one, we need a paramedic. That does take an ambulance, a rescue
Mhm.
out of service, you know, and they give us a paramedic. So that's 12. We've called for 12 paramedics, intercepts, they're called. And we've called for 14. So if you add those, that's 26. We've given 42, we've taken 26.
Mhm.
So they're getting more mutual, more beneficial.
Well, Chief, I was just gonna respond to Heather, because she wasn't here. I had requested this information. This
Oh,
has
I'm
been-
sorry.
No, this has been a thing probably going on a few years, and what we're seeing, and you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, what we're seeing, you know, throughout the state and so forth, where towns have elected to hire out or go subcontract their EMS service, they sometimes get, not always, but sometimes they get left in the dark, and they're more heavily reliant on mutual aid. In some of the towns that have done that, you can see that, especially in some of our local neighbors, they're more reliant upon us than in the past, because they don't have the chief, staff, et cetera, in terms of the per diem people and things of that nature, which my concern was just the burden on him and his staff, making sure that we're covering other communities, because they elected to go to a contracted service versus an in-house service, if that makes sense. So that was my concern.
Right. Okay.
We are, as I've explained before, we're building relationships, and that just takes time. As a new chief, I've been here a couple of years, it takes time, when you burn bridges, so to speak, or new management, either here or across the bridge. So we are working closely with Lisbon EMS now. They are, tell me, a quasi municipality, they're sort of getting more taken over by the town. Their service chief, if you will, is over a lot. We're sharing equipment, staff, training, so we're now building relationships to do that. Recently, there was a high-profile call there. We provided a rescue for transport, myself and 3 members. United provided paramedics, and they had their own. So when a high-profile or a larger call comes in, that's when you want the mutual aid to work seamlessly, and it did for that. So we are holding our own. I think this is really data important for you all to make decisions budgetarily down the road.
Yep.
I just have to give, attaboys and acknowledge the troops across the street, because they're the ones that do it. In lieu of somebody not doing it, that's me responding, but 9 out of 10 is them. So, night again is difficult, but these are just the numbers. They really don't lie, and that's how many times. We've had 24 fire departments, or 24 times, not including station coverage, in Durham. And we don't have that many fires, but when we do, you need your neighbors, and you don't want them to hesitate or think twice. We've given 19, and we've certainly had 24 of their apparatus in town, so that is certainly mutual. The rescue is always an ongoing
Yeah,
discussion.
I think it's fair to say it'll never be totally equitable.
Correct.
You just want it to be, at least from my standpoint, I'll speak for myself, we just want it to be mutual.
Sure, it has to work for Durham,
Right.
is what it has to. I'm not worried about the other municipality. It has to work for us.
And you feel comfortable that it is right now?
Yeah, I think with building the relationships and being able to call on them, it is. It is. We have not, in the 2 years, but this year, had a call that we didn't staff for Durham. We have said no to mutual aid, so when they do call, there is a question, do you have a rescue available? And there have been documented times that we've said no. We either don't have the staffing, they're responding back from a call, that type of stuff. So we can say no, and they just go to the next mutual aid company.
All right. Anybody else? All right.
So at the end of the year, you'll have our end of year stats, and it just helps with decision making and making budgets.
Thank you.
Oh, can I just ask one more question?
Yeah.
I don't need you to, it's for future. but
Sure.
When we get to the budget stuff and we've changed the billing policy.
Yes,
I would just like to see some
numbers.
information and data based around that.
Yep,
To
and
see
I-
how things are
I've
going.
pulled it already,
Okay.
just in thought of that, and we're almost double, up.
Thank you, Chief.
Which- Oh, you're welcome, which I'll be looking for.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to old business. Union Church update, Jerry?
Yes, let me give you an update on that. So, we did receive the grant to do the structural engineering report, so I reached out to Eric Doobie and let him know that, so that inspection and report should be coming to us in a couple of weeks. I will say the report is gonna basically tell you that building is safe and sound, it's
Mhm.
structurally sound, there's no safety from a structural standpoint wrong with that church.
So the inspection already happened and we're just waiting on the report?
Well, no, we just got the grant, so he's gonna do the inspection,
Okay.
okay? But you can't do the inspection before you do the grant.
I think it was because of what you just stated.
Right, that's why I was confused.
Right.
Is that your interpretation or your opinion,
Well,
that the building is structurally sound? and
no, I
stable?
would, no, I brought Eric over there so he knew what it was, and he pretty much said, just by looking at it, without climbing around, that there's nothing wrong with this from a structural standpoint, but he will have it in his report,
Okay.
okay?
That's why I was confused, thank you, that's true.
Okay, so there's that. As far as the Union Church Committee goes, so we're gonna meet with the, district, actually, members on Thursday, okay, to see what they wanna do in the event that there's a permit pulled in the district. They gotta meet, they're under a legal obligation to meet, but without a chair, can they meet? So, I gotta talk to them about that, I gotta show them their bylaws. In the event that they don't want to do that, I've got Brad Miller out of Maine Preservation that will moderate the meeting if they don't wanna chair it. It's gonna be $100 an hour, and it's gonna cost the town money if they don't wanna do it. But if no one's gonna step up and do it, something has to happen if the permit gets pulled.
Mhm.
So, if they don't wanna run the meeting, Brad Miller will run it for them. So someone has to determine whatever that permit they're looking to do, does it fit the historical nature of the district and the building?
Okay, so that's the district commission,
Right.
and that, when you said we're meeting with them, you don't mean.
I'm meeting with them because
Okay.
they need to meet, they're under a
Right.
legal
Okay.
obligation to meet.
I was confused because we started with society and then you
Well,
said
I know, I
we,
get 'em
and so
mixed-
I, so
I
I
get 'em
thought that you
mixed up.
meant the society was meeting when you said we,
No.
I was just
Yeah,
clarifying.
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
I misspoke, and
Thank
it's the
you.
district commission
Okay,
that needs to meet in the
Mhm.
event that a permit gets pulled. So we gotta work that out.
right,
One way or the other. So if they don't wanna chair it, or they don't wanna moderate it, I found somebody that will. So I'm gonna talk to them about that on Thursday.
and
Okay.
is that at a meeting?
That's just
Like
right
a-
here, just me in the commission hashing that over.
Okay.
So, would we have to appoint that person before they chair?
You can, but that's the only, yeah, you can do that. But I gotta find out if they're willing to step up and chair it, then it's a moot point, we'll have to appoint anybody. But I have found someone to do it,
Okay.
that you'll have to appoint.
That we will have.
We would have to appoint, yeah, from what I've read, yeah.
And hopefully, I'm hopeful that that's not gonna be the case. I'm hoping they'll step up, I'm hoping we can convince them. That's in the event that the permit gets pulled. If one doesn't get pulled, and they don't wanna meet, then don't meet. We'll figure out where we go with that later. So this is just in the event, so that's. so
We have a-
there's the
we have a
update on
plan.
that. There's a plan.
There's
in
a plan.
place.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question about the society?
Yeah, I may not know a lot about,
Okay, so I just noticed that their last meeting was canceled, and I'm just curious, are they just like kind of stalemate waiting for the structural engineer report?
I don't believe so. So there's a couple things going on. That's a, it is, chief is still here, so there's an occupancy issue here. So I'm not sure if that building right now, as far as I know, is deemed an assembly building, yes? So if it's deemed an assembly building, it needs a second means of egress. So without that, then they're putting the town at liability if they meet there, so.
But I mean, are they meeting anywhere, or are they just
I'm not
waiting?
sure where they meet. I know that they had a fundraiser at the AMVets. And how many people were there? Does anybody know? There was,
But they're meeting at Erie.
oh, they're meeting at the Eureka? Oh, so there you go.
The Union Church Committee is meeting at
No.
Eureka.
No.
Society, you asked about the
Yeah,
society.
I meant,
So-
sorry, there's
so
some,
what-
I
what are
know,
you at?
I know.
We got
This is-
3 things
yeah,
going. We got
okay.
the,
So
our
I'm
union,
talking about the committee that's doing the plan, or
They-
coming up with the options for
Right.
us, right?
So they meet right here.
Okay.
And they're waiting on that report.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. It felt like I hadn't seen any movement forward, and I
That's
was
correct.
wondering if they're waiting on the report before
Right.
they continue.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's what I.
Can I just
Okay.
ask a real quick question? Real quick? Am I allowed to?
not necessarily, but
I just wanted to know what the definition between the difference between an assembly and a meeting was.
Okay, so, the,
Jerry, you can answer
Chief.
that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can answer that. It's not the same language. Assembly use is the use of a structure. Having a meeting is something else. So every structure, building has a use for the permit of what this is, town hall, actually another business. The Union Church currently would be an assembly, and with the square footage could be over 50 occupants.
Yep.
Yes, but it's an assembly use building as it stands.
Yep. So what's the difference between an assembly and a meeting?
A meeting is not a building identification, it's not a use.
So
That's-
technically, they could meet there,
No,
no?
nope. No, well, that'll be a discussion for
Yeah,
another day.
yeah.
Until the assessment is completed
Okay, I
and the
will-
committee comes back to us, then we will decide from there who will be able to use that.
Okay, if they're under 50,
Yeah.
but, yeah,
Yeah, we,
all right.
sorry.
Nope.
Okay, we're gonna move on, unless you're, got anything else on the subject, Jerry?
No, I'll get some more stuff in my report. and we'll
Okay.
do that
So new business, Eureka rental fee, Pearl,
I'm a spokesman.
you have a
Hi.
spokesperson.
Hi.
Come on up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
You really need me at the microphone.
Yeah. State your name and address.
I'm
and-
Jeannie Costigan. I am at Rangdale Road, and I have been a member of the Eureka Committee Center since God made dirt. And let me see. It's actually the rental fee. Pearl, slide on up here for a second. It covers a wide variety because you also have some additional paperwork about flooring information, so it kind of spreads a little bit.
And I'm Rose Scrivener, I'm the chairperson of Eureka, and I live on 64 Norwalk Road.
Thank you, Pearl.
So the rental fee, we're talking about increasing the rental fee to,
We said 80 through 70.
but we changed our mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking about going up to, I would say,
The 100.
yeah, and we've taken a look around, like, the MVets, I guess, is getting about $350. MTM doesn't publish what they rent,
It's 150.
is it $150? And Freeport, the only hall that is available to rent is the Bradley Room at the community center. That's $50 an hour, $25 an hour for a cleaning fee. Kitchen, you can use that as well, that's about it. We did take a look at resident versus non-resident. We got into a little bit of semantics here, so like, let's say for an example, you know, Heather's cousin from out of town wants to hold a surprise party and calls us up and says, I wanna hold a birthday party, but Libby is from Florida. I'm not gonna charge Libby an out of town residential fee because Heather lives here in Durham, you know? So we were just like, yeah, no, we're not getting into those semantics. So we're like, you know, $100 is easy. But then you get into the whole thing about the insurance, you gotta tack that on. So, yeah, $100.
Do the other places require insurance, private insurance?
Yes.
Or do you just?
Yeah, yeah.
Depends on,
Yes, ma'am.
I have lots of questions.
Oh, I have lots of answers.
Because I'm always looking for ways to generate revenue.
Yo, go
Um,
nuts.
So I'm curious, and we don't have these answers tonight, that's okay. Do you know how many times the Eureka is rented on an annual basis?
yep. It's been increasing every year since we did it, and this year, up to this year, it was averaging about almost two rents a month. And this year we have 31, well, 35 now,
Total for the,
for the
to
year.
date, 35 to date. Okay, and, in terms of record keeping, who keeps the record? Like,
Pearl
who
does.
process you keep record of who's rented it? And are you, it sounds like you're not keeping track right now of local versus not local, or for-profit versus nonprofit?
Yeah, we
You
are
are.
in a way, because if someone says, oh, I don't live in town, I live in here, and, you know, I'll have to ask them what their association is, or why, and usually, like you just said, it's because somebody they're having it for, or doing it with, is from town.
So we've always made the delineation, like if you're Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Brownies, whatever and so forth, it's no charge.
There's no charge for nonprofits
No.
currently?
No.
Okay.
You know, and we hold you to the standard, you're gonna leave it the way you found it, you know, and if you're a Girl Scout, Boy Scout, whatever Scout, you're gonna leave it better than you found it.
And how
You
does
know.
that work for the nonprofits in terms of insurance? Are they still required to get
No.
insurance?
No.
Okay.
As long as they are a
You gotta
town-
remember, if you're a Scout, you carry the Scout insurance.
Right,
So
Yeah, the
you
Scouts-
automatically come with it,
yeah,
so.
right, yeah.
Um,
And for others, if they have to be town.
And again, if you're a nonprofit, your nonprofit status, you're coming with your insurance anyway.
okay. And applications are kept by you and processed by you, or does that go through the
No,
town?
it's most of the
It
town.
goes through the town, okay, thank you. And the current fee includes municipal insurance, or people have the option?
They either get it themselves, which is like an arm and a leg and pulling teeth to get through your own insurance, you can do it. I've called my own insurance and she's like, yeah, I can do it, it's gonna take me about a week to add it, write it, whatever. It's about the same cost, it's just easier to get it through us, it's about $110, what, 110?
19 now.
Yeah,
Actually,
$119.
More expensive to get it in your own insurance, because I did that, looked into it the first time, we did the whole family reunion. And it was, our insurance, my insurance company didn't even want to handle it, and it was only, if they did handle it, it's only $150. I went through the town insurance, which went very well, but it had gone up from the hundred, $77 to
$77 to
$120. It could
Okay.
easily probably go up to $150. A lot of insurance companies just do not want to be bothered with that
It's one day rider.
one-day rider.
Yeah.
That's what our insurance told us.
So, I just wanna understand the process, so someone reaches out to you, does the application process?
No, not
So-
for me. Well,
So,
they-
so hang on a second. So what do you need from us on regards to the?
You need to approve it.
If our
Okay,
bylaw says
That's,
that
that's
we,
that's what I get to the, they want a fee increase,
our bylaw says
insurance and
that we
everything,
can't do
as long as we're
this
covering it.
without you
Right.
telling us we can.
Because the,
Okay.
the town owns this building, this is a
No,
town.
I understand.
And
So-
and our bylaws say that we cannot increase or do, or buy something or whatever without becoming in front of the board.
Okay.
Thank you for following the process.
What?
Thank you for following the
Oh,
process.
well,
Nope.
So people apply,
people call me
They don't
to see all
apply,
the
they come
day.
in and say, we'd like to use the.
They
and
all
then
say
they
they
go
have
through
a date.
Jessica for the application.
Yeah.
Is there a problem with me asking questions?
Yeah, I don't think that we need to discuss their process here. I think we just need to discuss the fee. So I
Well,
think,
part of the fee is going to be a result of these numbers that I'm looking at, and so I would like to be able to continue to ask my questions, if that's okay.
I think if they're relative to the fee, it's okay.
yeah, I'm
I
not
think
sure.
we're getting into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Well, I
it's
think
relative.
that the fee needs to cover staff time, so what I'm trying to figure out is if it's the committee that's
Well,
processing, or if we're using
so-
staff time to
So
process.
then that's a question to Jerry. Jerry, is this a burden on us, an additional burden that the fee needs to be more, increased more?
Can I just interject here? It's going to become a problem.
Okay,
You're gonna wanna know these answers.
so how is that gonna become a problem?
Because, this is going to be, you're gonna be seeing a lot more of us, and coming up. As I said, I've been on the Eureka Committee for quite some time and so forth, since we turned over the Eureka Center
2002.
2002. We turned it over in lovely shape, and over the years, it's gone downhill, and she needs a little help.
Mhm.
And the floor needs to be redone, the heat pumps need to be done, the doors need to be replaced, you know, we need to sink some money into it. And I'm not talking about improvements, I'm talking about repairs, and we need to get some money. So, that's what we're at.
Is there an official plan here?
No,
Yeah,
that's,
that-
I
In terms of
know.
what we're
No, no,
asking
no.
for?
No,
Because
we're not asking for anything right now,
Well, no,
I'm saying,
so
I'm just
We
saying.
really kinda need to stick to what we're supposed to be.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, is that I'm
I-
just saying, she's asking questions, and I'm saying, we need to increase the fee, because some of the things that we're gonna be looking at down the road, Rich, is, we're gonna help try to offset some of these things, but look to see my smiling face on a monthly basis.
If I could just-
Go ahead,
I'd
Ray.
love to, I'd love to.
I know,
I think
Rich.
what everybody's, and I think it's important, and I recognize, I think you guys, the work that goes on over there doesn't necessarily get recognized as much as it should. What I was getting at was, this is a meeting about a fee.
Yeah.
It's you guys are the somewhat caretakers of this building.
Yeah,
What is your proposed recommended fee?
I think for right now, we're going from like, what, $80 or whatever it is to 100, I think that's minimal. You know, I'm looking at the MTM Center, they're $115, they have 8
So-
staff members.
So by that rationale, is that your official request to
For
raise
right
from?
now, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
But can
Okay.
I say something about the rent? The rent is what is turned back over into the town for the maintenance,
That's capital improvement.
right?
Yeah, I have no,
I get that.
And for.
we just wanna know what your number
And,
is.
and
Yeah.
so that when we're asking for
So-
money from the town, okay,
right, you've brought up other issues that probably need to be discussed.
Yes,
It's
we
not
need to
on
get on
our-
the
It's not
agenda
on
for
our
next week.
agenda.
right.
No,
So you're looking for a straight fee increase
Yes.
to match the market
yes,
and going from 80
actually
to
below,
100.
yeah.
Well, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. So
70,
that's what we're here to
100.
talk about.
Yes.
And really nothing else.
correct.
$30.
So, yeah, and then if we need to have a discussion, then we will action out Jerry to have a future discussion
Oh,
on.
we need to get on there sooner rather than
On the
later.
Eureka Center, which
Yep.
we
Yep.
do realize there are things that could be done to that facility.
Oh, yeah, actually, probably before the
Yep.
first snow has to be,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Heather, you got one question in relation to the fee?
Jerry, I would like to consider not setting an amount until we look at what the expenses and the costs and the surrounding town fee structures, and that's the point that I was trying to get at, is that I don't think that we should just shoot in the dark and pick a number. I think that you guys are doing so much over there, but there's also a lot to it that's not being considered. Like when we look at the amount that we spent last year, it was $4,457.37, and the amount of rental fees collected was $1,520. And so I would just like to do our due diligence in coming up with a number that makes sense versus with the amount of staff time that's put into it and that type of stuff, and then set the number in the very, very near future. This isn't a thing I wanna put off like we have with all of the other fees, but I don't think that this is a kind of thing that we should just pick a number out of the dark and assign that number to it. That it really should be reflective of what the cost to the town is to be able to run that building.
Okay,
And I'm
and my
happy-
argument would be on that, Heather, well, I greatly appreciate and respect your point of view. The numbers that were spent last year and the numbers that will be spent going forward is repairs, not improvements. So,
Well, and this is like heating costs, electricity, that's what that $4,457 represents.
Exactly.
Is that type of stuff, and so what
Well,
I think
hold
your
on,
number's
hold
too
on,
low.
hold
I'm
on.
just saying, I think your number's too low.
I agree, but if we don't change that number, if we don't agree on a number right now, Heather, because our bylaws stay the way that they are, that number stays at 80. 70, excuse me. So if you don't change it to 100, Sally Mae comes in for her party next month, it's $70. So.
Right, and that fee is really to cover the, I'll say, the cleaning of the facility after they're done and any electricity they might use. It's not necessarily for the entire upkeep of the building. Upkeep of the building is a different issue.
Well,
So,
the
So,
caveat and the side note, and I'm sorry, and I,
helps.
yeah. And the side note and the caveat that we're having a problem with that I'm trying to keep out of this is Sally Mae comes in for the party,
Mhm.
we have to keep it warm.
No, I get it.
The heat pumps aren't working, so we have to jack it up to
That-
75 just to get it to 62, and the doors aren't working.
Yep.
So there's your $4,000 in heat. So,
Yep. No, I get it. I get it, but that is a different problem from the
but
fee.
Heather, so if we
That-
don't approve $100 now, Sally's getting a bargain. So if we could get $100
Jerry-
now, I'll
Jerry,
turn
all right.
around.
We can come back to you
So,
and ask for more.
Hang on.
So, I'm happy to do whatever the board asks me to do in that regard, okay? So, where this came, when I got the request from Jessica, I looked at it, and it was like 70, right?
It is 70 now.
We
And I
wanted
had
to
said
raise
to
it to
Jessica
80.
to get in touch with Pearl, and I said, how about we bump it up to at least 100 for residents, 150 for non-residents,
Mhm.
just to throw it out there. You can go higher than that if you want. If you do something now to raise it, we can always do our homework, revisit it and raise it more if we need to. But what they're looking for right now is.
I
is
just want to
100
open the
okay?
door.
Do you wanna go 125? That's up to you, but that was just a minimum that I
Mhm.
mean, I saw 80, I was like, well, why not 100? Let's just round it up to 100, and that's where that 100 and 150.
I just need to get the
came
door
from.
open
Okay.
to get on
So-
the agenda going forward.
Heather, you got one more?
So currently, right now, the way that you're saying it, it would, in this write-up that you gave us, you're saying it would be about $200 because you
Yep.
were thinking 80 and then the 120 for the insurance.
Yep.
I would like for it to read whatever the amount is that we choose, which I hope that we'll revisit with a little bit more data behind it. Whatever the price is to rent it plus the cost of insurance.
That's what we do. We do, it's a
Yeah.
line item, it says this is what the cost of the thing is, and then there's a separate line item that says insurance optional. Because if they decide that they wanna do their own, you
Right.
eliminate that line item.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion?
What? Yeah, the plan was this to take, yes, the first of the year.
So,
So there's some more information for you.
So if we're not gonna have it go into effect until the first of the year, I would prefer that we get a data-driven number. If it's not gonna take effect until the first of the year, which I think is also
Okay,
fair.
that I wasn't aware
Based on
of.
what you were saying the other time about letting, not just saying something and then have it change immediately.
I think it's fair, but what I would also caution everybody is like, the Eureka Center is not necessarily a building for profit, it's a community building. I don't know in that number, let's say we're up to 36, cause I think you said we're up to 3 times per month, how many of that is for nonprofits that we don't even charge a fee? So is it,
No, that's not, that's a fee,
A fee base.
a
so
fee
there's
base.
36 fee-based,
Based. Yeah,
so if you're, if we went to 100, that's $3,600, and we still, we're almost to Heather's mark of covering quote-unquote the expenses that I think is
Right.
what she's trying to achieve.
4,000, yeah.
What, $4,000, so the 100 actually pretty much gets you there, because we got another 2 months left.
But
Like, we
of that
average-
expenses, how much is potentially eliminated?
No, I'm not
well,
disagreeing
yeah,
with it.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but the fact of the matter is, Heather has some points, because
Mhm.
you're coming, asking us for a number, but in the same token breath, you're saying it's eliminated.
Not
So-
eliminated, but
So-
reduced, I should say.
So, I think from your, committee's representation, is and Jerry's, and the
Yep.
towns for say, is your recommendation as your committee in the town to raise it, are you asking the board to raise it to simply $100?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the
That's it.
question.
That is. So, based on that, do we have a motion?
Raise it to $100 to start at the first of the year.
I was unaware that it was the first year, I thought it was
Why,
a
yeah,
year.
why would it be the first of the
Yeah,
year?
that's my
Because we already
question.
have people who have rented,
Should-
set the money.
Well, no, they're
Well-
grandfathered as far as I'm concerned, it's,
So-
it's
Effective
going
immediately, it
forward,
should be
yeah.
$100.
It'll
Under-
get confusing in the office if we've got like,
If what?
If,
if like.
if tomorrow we change it to 100?
eh,
Excuse me, first of all, we can't have all this interaction.
No, I get it.
That's A, that keeps happening here, we can't have that. Secondly, it's not confusing, people who have already rented and secured it with a deposit, their price is set. Moving forward, the new fee, proposed fee, pardon me, is $100. I will make that motion.
All right, and I second that motion.
Discussion?
Any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all in favor in the usual manner? Okay, motion carries 3-0. $100 fee starting immediately. And anyone who's already got their fees in, they're grandfathered in according to the committee. and
Thank
the
you
town.
very much.
Okay.
We'll see you
And then-
next week.
And then provide Jerry with any list
We're
of
not
any.
here, but you're welcome to use.
I'll be
Yes.
here anyway.
Yeah. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your hard work, too. Okay. Skip Rabbit Road.
Whose bag is this one? Whose is this one?
Well, that's Pearl, I think.
I'll let you start in, Jerry, on
Okay.
the audit costs when you're ready.
I just wanted to share this email with you that I got from Jen Connors about the audit costs.
Oh, really?
I'm assuming you read it, but we gotta pay this bill. It's
Excuse
way-
me, ladies.
Excuse me, ladies.
Ladies. Yeah, thank you.
um,
Is it in our packet?
Yeah, it should be. So basically what you're looking at here is,
Oh, yes, yes.
3,000 additional dollars over the 2,000 that is left to pay, because
Yep.
of all the work that Audit had to do. So, I gotta pay it, so it's above and beyond, and I think this really speaks to why we hired a financial firm, because they spend so much time trying to prepare our financial statements and books and all of that. They spend a lot of time, so that's why, I just want people to know, when you see the budget line for the audit, why it's that much money. It's because they're taking a hit.
The budget, what was the original figure, Jerry?
I
For
don't-
the,
I don't-
for the,
I'd have to.
For that
I'd
line
have to
item.
go- I'd have to.
I guess that's all I was looking for when I read this is, you know, what was the original number and how much is it going up? And that as long as you have the justification for
Well,
that.
there's 2,000 remaining, and she wants to add 3,000.
No, I get what she wants to do, but what it didn't appear to me is where am I going from and to? And then just in brief, I don't need a long list, just what are the extra things that, as long as you're justifying the time.
It's her time.
Right,
to
okay,
do the
so, and I'd rely on you to figure out if that time's justifiable.
Well, I'm
So
not-
I get that we have to approve the amount, and we're gonna ask you for that justification, right? That the
Well, no,
town,
no,
right?
You don't have to approve the amount, we have to pay this.
No,
but
I get that,
There's no approving, I'm just trying to make you aware.
Yep.
That our audit costs are going through the roof because they spend so much time doing it, a lot more time. than
as
they
long as you think
anticipate.
as long as it's justifiable, and you feel as though it's justifiable, then that's.
Yeah, well, we need to keep our auditor, because other towns are having a hard time finding
Yep.
an auditor. So if they're asking for this, and she's still taking a $13,000 hit. You know, I mean, you don't have to trust her, I mean,
It's
I
not
can
the-
see that.
whoa, whoa.
but-
First of
right.
all, don't say that, it's
Right.
not that it has nothing to trust
Right.
it, it's just that she's taking a $13,000 hit, that's her prerogative, she's asking for whatever it is she's asking.
What percentage, right.
Percent,
Yeah.
right. As far as the audit and the audit complexities, that's not necessarily, new,
Right.
would you say? So, you know,
I think in the last couple of years, though.
exactly,
it
more
is-
than one, right? So it's
Right.
not just this year is what I was
Right.
getting at.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, it's this year that we're saying that, hey, we're way above, like this year was even worse than previous years, is that what we're getting at?
Last year, we took a hit, they took a hit too. It's really been the last couple of
And
years.
what was the extra charge for that?
Time to do
Yeah.
it's time.
No, I get it, what was the extra charge for it?
I'd have to go back and look at it.
But
I have the email.
is it billed out as a time,
Well, they
or is
quote,
it billed out as a bid, is really my only question on
yeah,
this.
well, they quote what they think they can do our audit for,
Okay.
based on the number of transactions we do and all of that sort of stuff.
In the history, right?
Right, in the history, yeah.
Well, that was kind of my point, like historically, I agree with you, you have to pay this, I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
arguing that. But historically, when you put a big round number of like 13,000, and historically, we know this has been an issue, but you're bid on it at the same cost every year and then come with an upcharge,
No, they went 5,000
or
higher.
5,000 higher,
For this
and now
audit.
you're another 3,000. I
Another
mean, you see what I'm saying?
I
It's
do.
like, you know we've kind of been in a
In a
Right.
jam,
turmoil,
yeah.
for lack of better words.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, by that rationale, what I was going with this, not as far as the trust thing that got brought up, what I was going with this is, knowing that we'll have this cost this year, do you perceive this cost going forward as a hard cost, or do you think
A
this
new
will get
baseline.
better? Yes, or as a new baseline, that's fine, that's a great way to put it, as a new baseline, as their new normal fee, or do you see this as, or excuse me, do you anticipate this getting better with our new system in place with our
good question. I anticipate this going down
Okay.
because our new financial person is gonna hand the auditor all of the financial statements already prepared. All they're gonna have to do is come in here for their 3 days, pull those things, and we should be in better shape. My fear is, they may be jaded a little bit, but Jen knows Mark, and they're actually talking, so it should get better for us
Yeah.
in this regard.
And that's really all I was trying to find
And-
out here.
And we should know by the end of January of 2024, the audit should be done. We're waiting now until August, so you can see that time frame when, you know, an audit really shouldn't take a whole lot of time. And we should have the 2024 audit done by the end of January to help us developing the 2024 budget.
Heather?
So,
In 2022, the number was 12,400, and it was proposed for 2023 at 15,500, which was the notation next to it says 25% based on new quote. So I believe that the number was 15,500 for 2023, and then this is addition to that.
right.
Is that what number you were looking for, where we started and where we're going?
Yeah, so we're up to $20,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot for an audit.
You know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
From a town standpoint, I know what we historically play, but that's why I'm not questioning whether or not that she had quote unquote extra work. I don't question that at all, it
Right.
just seems that's been going on every year, and we keep increasing the amount of the audit. And when you see a number like, hey, we're only gonna charge 3, but we're really 13, it's kind of like, so what do we schedule for next year?
Yeah.
Do we charge 40?
Right. Well, we should, we'll get a quote from her to put in the budget, and I think if you'll see, it should not be this high, and if it is, I'm gonna.
So that's
I
not,
will
that-
ask, I will say why, if Mark is doing all the because she has to do all the financial statements, if that's already being done for you,
right.
we'll have to see what the quote is, but if it's $4,000 or $5,000 less, I think that's gonna be legit. But we'll see.
Heather?
While we're on this subject, RKO is the audit,
They're the company, yep,
they're the okay, and Mark works at RKO, but in
No.
a he's completely separate.
it's completely
Okay,
separate.
okay,
That's
so
Roy-
then it's
that's
not to
Royer.
this point, but I'll bring that up for our next agenda item. Okay.
No, yeah, so,
Alright.
and so in essence, I mean, Jen is really, is auditing her own work from year after year after
Hmm.
So this is gonna be, that's what Mark had said when he came in one time and did the things, because he was an auditor. So he says, you know, I just ended up auditing my own work, so that's where he found the niche to do this. And at the MMA conference, I don't know, Heather, did you end up going to that?
I didn't.
You did? So at the MMA conference in Augusta, where it's the biggest conference for municipal employees that go at the Civic Center, there was a session, how to prepare for the audit. Mark taught it to all the other municipalities. So he's gonna have the audit all done, pretty much ready to go. That we're already paying, so that should limit RK's time to.
She still has to do an official audit independent of what the town already pays.
Right.
Absolutely, but she shouldn't. But
We shouldn't, I think we should be cautious of using, we're auditing our auditor, or we're essentially auditing ourselves, like Mark's saying, it gives an illusion like we hired somebody that's basically doing an auditor that's supposed to be an independent. We don't really want that. I don't want that.
No, but.
And I don't wanna give that illusion that we're doing that. That's what I'm trying to.
No, but the town is really supposed to be the entity that puts the financial statements together.
And we are, right, I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we, the last couple of years, we haven't been.
No, but we're subcontracting it
Right,
out
but we are now.
We're
We are
paying for
now,
a service,
yeah.
but it's another independent person that's
Right.
reviewing that. It's not anything to do with Mark, auditing Mark, or so-and-so auditing so-and-so. Just wanna make that clear.
Yeah.
All right. Okay?
So we are, just gotta pay it, yep.
Yep.
I just wanted to share it with you, just so you know, that's when you see the line, being that much more than what it was budgeted for, you'll know why.
Yep.
But
All right. CIP requests. I see a whole bunch of these in here. Jerry, you wanna?
yeah, so the process, and I'm not 100% sure why when we have a CIP committee, these get floated through you guys, this board first. But here they are. They're the requests from Public Works, Fire, and the administration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sort of following what you've done in the past prior to, I think, having a town manager where these did go to the board. So you're just looking to move them on to the CIP committee, which is meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that didn't meet the criteria. We're certainly not gonna read through all of these here this evening, so, I mean, these all need to just go to the CIP committee for their, to go through that process to rate and, basically rate and rank them based on, the budget. So I'm assuming that, what I didn't see was, I didn't see the spreadsheet as part of the package that will go to, does Paul have that already?
Well, he will get that. You
As-
don't get it, because I don't think it's gonna add any.
No, I'm
value
just
to
making
this.
sure, it's available
Oh,
to
yeah,
him.
yeah, he's
So-
gonna have the,
So that's gonna be sent to him, this is gonna be sent to him,
he's gonna be
and,
sent the 10-year replacement.
and the 10-year
schedules.
replacement schedule.
Yeah.
Yep,
The reserve amounts are gonna be sent to him.
all right. And then you vetted these with your department
Oh,
heads.
absolutely, yes.
Um,
But I trust the department heads that to put it together. I don't ask them a ton of questions. They're department heads, they run their departments, and if it's legit, I just put it through and go. If it's not, then we'll have a discussion. And I had some of those this year, but I don't wanna get into that right now.
Heather?
I just had a process question that I had sent in that email about if that spreadsheet that had the extended plan on it, if something comes in, what's the process in determining that it skips the line?
I don't know.
The way I understood it in the past, so don't hold that, because it goes and gets vetted through the CIP committee. The CIP committee kicks back to us a recommendation, and then we put forth to the town what is the final recommendation. So this is just really just the CIP vetting and, more importantly, deciphering and determining what has the highest priority for the town's resources, i.e. their capital, and then we would based upon that, we would push forward in terms of what we wanted to submit moving forward to the town on this year's warrants, et cetera.
Okay, So I just wanna make sure that I understand correctly.
Along with the budgets committees.
Cause obviously there's like things that come up that are an emergency, right? Like if something happened in a building or, you know, something like that, and it would be a more emergent type situation, but not to the point where we're gonna vote here at this table to put that through, right? Like a time sensitive thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily on the extended plan, but now it really needs to be. And so I'm wondering, is it the CIP committee that determines that would then become a higher priority? Is it the department head that determines it's become a higher priority? Is it in conjunction? I'm just wondering
Well-
like how that process plays out.
But any emergent issue, whatever it is, would have to come before the board, more than likely, unless it was something small that Jerry could just handle under his budget. But that could, yes, that could make the board decide to not do something that was on the list. And I think there's dialogue that would go along with that. It wouldn't, you know, if we got an emergent issue, you know, the ambulance, you know, gets in a crash and we gotta buy a new one, right? You know, forgetting the insurance for a second. That would be an emergent issue, we'd have to go replace it. And that would be something that, yeah, that might come before what the chief has on this list here currently, or is requesting, or maybe it doesn't, maybe it gets added to it. But that's a decision we'd have to make when that came up, so.
When you say we, are you referring to this
The-
board?
This board would have to put it in front of the town, depending on the amount, and say, we had this issue, you know, ambulance got crashed, insurance didn't pay enough, we've gotta cover this amount, and we wanted this added to the fire department budget. We think it all should be done, we should think part should be done, or we should think none should be done, right? That would be a decision that we'd make to present to the town.
Okay.
So that's how that would work. So the CIP, just as Rich said, we rate and rank that independently of everything else that's going on, but based on need. So the criteria in the CIP commission is like 20 criteria or more, that you basically go down and put a 0 to 10 score against each. How does it help the public? How does it help the elderly? How does it help? There's a whole bunch of criteria there. Disabled, it goes through the whole gamut of possible questions of how does something help the most amount of people in the town. The goal is to put the things that help things the most, or maybe are things that we're saving for, like the fire truck that's coming, or the public works department truck that's coming in 5 years. We need to go put that money away, so that ranks a little higher maybe compared to something else that maybe you can put off a year. So
So
that's
let me
how
Let me
that
attach a
goes.
specific thing to the question, or why I'm asking, is that because I know that we've had multiple discussions about the revale, and that you were saying that companies, even if we were on their thing today, they're 2 years out. And so if we're only putting in a request for $60,000, right?
Yeah.
We haven't even reached the point where we can now go out to get under contract with them. And so I'm curious because I feel like that is something that needs to get bumped. And so if we're just gonna keep putting money away, which we could still do, right? Because we're gonna be 2 years out from the time that the town votes to do it. But we need that up front, right? And then we could replenish it as we come back. So that's what I'm trying to figure out is, by requesting it this way, it appears as though we're still pushing it down the road to 2025. Then we're only gonna put them under contract in 2025, and then it's gonna be 2 more years before it happens again.
No.
Okay.
So let me explain. So we have 60 already in the kitty for
Yeah.
rebound. We put another 60, that's 120. So Donna and I are gonna get together and try to put the RFP out for the rebound this fall.
Okay,
So and of course, they're not gonna want the money until we get somebody lined up and they're ready to do it, which we're thinking, and what we hear is that they are 2 years out. So you put it out now, get them on the schedule, we'll know what their price is based on what they bid. We've already got 120 in. If it comes in at 180, we need to know, then we know we need to add 60, or whatever it is, we need to add the rest of it, so when they do start it.
Okay, but that's gonna happen this year, that's the process to start.
The RFP, we should go out with the RFP, I'm gonna go out the RFP this year.
Okay.
Cause I know we're that far out with it.
Okay,
And I got one ready to go, I just gotta work with Donna on it, cause Donna plays a role in that
Right.
whole thing, so. When she's
So-
only here 2 days a month, she gets busy or I'm on vacation, things seem to, you know, it just, 2 days a month, it's hard sometimes.
right, okay, that
We'll
helps.
that's in the plan.
Okay, I appreciate that explanation, thank you. And
Yeah.
then the other thing that I'm wondering is, how does it work with CIP if, say, the long-term plan shows, let's just say, this is not real, I don't wanna say this because people are gonna hear that one little sentence and be like, oh my god, we're gonna buy another plow truck? Let's just say,
Oh,
the thing
will.
says the replacement schedule is that a plow truck, right? And Calvin didn't put in the request for the plow truck, he put in a request for something else. Is the CIP committee only looking at what is here, or could the CIP committee come back to us and say, according to the replacement schedule, this is what's supposed to take place this year?
Yes, and they will ask, we'll using Calvin as an example, they will ask Calvin during that session as to, Calvin, why didn't you go plan for this truck in 4 years? And instead you have this reason on this sheet of paper. That discussion will happen, and he can change it up at that point. You know, we're trying to clarify that that's what you really wanna go get. And if something's wrong with that schedule per se, then that also somewhat gets flushed out or can get flushed out, and then Jerry and Calvin can talk about, maybe that schedule's not quite showing exactly how this was gonna play out. And I think it's I say it's a moving target. I mean, it's a fluid, it's fluid. It's an estimate of what you might need in 5 years. Maybe you can squeak an extra 2 years out of a vehicle. Maybe not, because something happens, you don't know. But, I mean, that's the best guess based on state and federal and other estimates of how long a plow truck lasts with that much salt on it, right? Is really what it comes down to. When's the body gonna fall off? And that's what you base those numbers on. So that is a fluid
Right,
Yes.
schedule. So that can get pushed in either direction depending on what the emergency issue is and what the reality of what those vehicles are doing at the time. I use vehicles because that's mostly what we purchase under the capital.
Yeah, but see, like Joe alluded to earlier, that's a very good question, because the schedule is so fluid, because, for example, like he had mentioned earlier, you crash a vehicle or something happens, all of a sudden the schedule gets pushed back because something leapfrogged something else. So it's so fluid that in years past, there was so much complication with it, and we really just, the fire department has always done a really good job on vehicle, use, in terms of, not necessarily vehicle use, but in terms of, years of service, et cetera, and when replacement schedules, that's the word I was looking for. But, things change, like, sometimes the town doesn't vote
right,
for a new ambulance, it gets
Right,
pushed back 2
right.
years, and then other things sometimes get manipulated, so.
Right.
I think it is fluid, but I think that's one of the main reasons why I think that people recognize the need for the CIP committee, because there's just so many hands in the pot, per se, trying to cook the dinner, that if you just rely upon that one entity to say to bring it to the town, and then it helps us make much better educated decisions
Right.
rather than just making a decision.
Yeah.
Right.
And just real quick, and so, I mean, this start is very, basic early on. 5 years ago, I think we started CIP. There was nothing, there was no schedule, or the schedule was, I need a truck. Like, what do you need a truck for? And so it's come a long way. I mean, this schedule, I think, is pretty good from a projection standpoint. And you don't know what you don't know, but I think that the committee has, I'll say, pushed the town departments into thinking like this. And I think everybody wanted to think like this anyway, so, it's come a long way. It's been really nice to see this in the 5 years it's progressed, so it's now getting into a more solid type schedule to look at and something much easier to read, and be able to project. The projection is the hard part.
I thought it's a good plan.
Yeah, it is it's a plan. It's a plan.
Yeah, it's, just remember that fiscal policy is 1 year. That's what it is, and that's what we concentrate on, and it's good to talk, 5-year plans, 10-year plans and stuff like that, but I like to just call it data or schedules. So I'm gonna try to get Mark to come in the second meeting of the CIP, because he has programs where you plug in all your assets based on those schedules. And it'll show you what you need to put away each year to meet those schedules. There'll be big numbers. I mean, for example, we've already done Calvin's. He's got his 10-year replacement schedule for all of his equipment. In 10 years, that's 1.9 million, so call it 2 million. That means to fund all that, that's 200,000 each year,
Right.
that's not even including
Right.
Right.
fire, that's not even including our buildings. So when all that gets plugged in, depending on the length, on how far you wanna look out, they're typically big numbers, to keep the assets going. But every year changes, and so you gotta just sort of, you gotta be careful with sticking with these, telling people you've got this plan. Because as I've said to many, many folks out there, if you're gonna plan your work, you gotta work your plan. So we have to be careful about saying, oh, we're definitely gonna buy a truck. Because if you're 15 years old, and like in Calvin's case with his equipment, that 1.9 million is today's cost.
Right.
So in 10 years, those costs go up. I mean, we didn't know what the pandemic was gonna do with prices, so things are, as Rich says, it's always fluid. So it's good to have that data that we know we got a truck coming here and we need to look at that. But we really need to concentrate on what's our budget for 2024 and what can we afford.
Yeah, I would also note that, the CIP and the capital planning and so forth, maybe in the last 10, 15 years wasn't as important because you could borrow money for cheap. But now that you're gonna pay
Yes.
7 to 10 points to borrow some money, it definitely could impact
Yeah.
those numbers, make them even more fluid per se than in the past. So the capital component is probably as important as it's been in many, 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 many
Yeah,
years.
absolutely.
So it is a fiscal budget, but we still are allowed to fund capital projects, knowing that they're coming up in the past, and planning for those really.
You haven't seen it, and maybe when Mark comes in, he'll show you, but he has this really cool program where it shows that depending on what you fund for 10 years, either you'll be bankrupt or you can keep it afloat. And
Right.
it's pretty awesome, isn't it? You saw it, didn't you? It's pretty cool, so at least we're gonna have that to kind of look at and have a conversation over. And the numbers don't lie, it is what it is. So that's a big thing, so graduating to that level of capital.
So while we're talking about the capital improvement request, and I had brought up, in that email to you, I was surprised that I didn't see Eureka on there. And when, I don't know if I saw that it said, ARPA for the reconfiguration. And I think based on the email that Devin had sent in April with like what the cost would be to get done over there, what needed to get done, there's plenty of ARPA money to be able to do both. And so I was just surprised that I didn't see Eureka in these requests. In terms of the technology upgrades, not any of the stuff that was discussed tonight, I'm talking about just the technology upgrades, because I feel like it's been the topic of conversations like since COVID, but that if this meeting space was gonna be converted into something else, that Eureka was gonna get upgraded with technology upgrades to then become a meeting space. And I think it's great that you're looking at like the fire department space. I think that's a great space. I've been to a planning board meeting over there and I think it's great, but I have concerns about if there's a call
Yes.
or something like that when one of our meetings is happening, or if it's a hot topic and the room is full of people, that means the parking lot's full of people.
Well, you can't park in front of the babies, that's for sure.
Yeah, I
No.
just, I have
And-
concerns around that, and I would just like to, if it doesn't happen tonight, if you wanna put it off until the next meeting, I'm completely fine with that, but I do think technology upgrades to Eureka need to be part of the capital improvement conversation.
And we can have that conversation. I, as the manager, don't think the Youth Center is the best place to hold
Okay.
public official meetings. 'Cause
Okay.
They have other things, it's a community center, they have parties there and this and that. Every time we have a meeting, we have to go there and set up
Yep,
every single time.
I would love to have this
I don't-
conversation if we can, it doesn't have to happen
I don't-
tonight.
I don't like it, and there's a lot of towns that meet at the fire station, I talked to the chief, the technology's all pretty much there, we gotta get a camera, it's ADA compliant, it's lit, it's the whole 9 yards, I mean, you'd have to throw a ton of money into, I mean, you can't even heat Eureka right now in the winter time, right? You can't, there's a lot of money that has to be put into Eureka to make it a meeting space. So you can run the technology over there, but I don't know what you're gonna do with it in the meantime, before you do all the other renovations that has to happen to it, to make it ADA compliant and lit and all that.
I think it's worth the conversation simply because in the past, I don't necessarily disagree with anything you just said. But in the past, the narrative has always been that we are going to start utilizing the Eureka Center at a future date. And we had them do quotes, et cetera. I don't know if you were here for that, but, you know, we did a lot of work and kind of, for lack of better words, vetting out that building as far as the next potential spot, knowing that we were coming to a, again, for lack of better words, a capacity overload inside of this particular town hall.
Right.
So I do think if we're gonna go, whatever direction we're gonna go, that it should involve the select board and a decision being made moving forward on which direction we go. I'm not saying yours is
And
wrong.
that's fine, I mean, you can overrule me, but I'm gonna,
That's not what I said.
No, no,
That's
no.
not what I said. I
No,
just
no,
think,
not- I
I just think
shouldn't
it warrants
say
a
overrule me, I
conversation.
mean, it is up to you folks, but
I know
there's
that.
absolutely no doubt about it. But I am gonna give you my opinion.
No, I agree that, but it'd be
Period.
nice to have a conversation and some dialogue is what I'm saying, Jerry, because the dialogue in the past has been that, and other than receiving an email, I think it was Thursday, it might have been Friday, I can't see that. This is the first I've heard of moving our meetings to the 5.
Well, if one of the capital requests comes in, and it has, we need to.
So that they know.
If one of the capital requests comes to fruition,
Well, that's why I think it warrants a discussion.
right,
I'm not,
right.
I'm not saying it's the, again, I'm not saying that that's the wrong approach. Maybe we looked at it in the past, but we did do some extensive work looking at that as a town, as I believe the chief was involved in a few of those conversations and so forth. So it wasn't like we just picked the Eureka Center out of the hat versus a fire station. There was a lot of dialogue in terms of why we're utilizing, or gonna utilize the Eureka Center moving forward, et cetera, et cetera. That's all I'm saying. But I agree with you from the standpoint of like, the conversation we just had, rentals, if somebody books it, and all of a sudden you got a meeting, and then you got I can see how there'd be issues, but I can also see Heather's point of, there could also be those same issues that would maybe take place at the fire department also. So we gotta kick Calvin out, we gotta utilize his office.
That's gonna have the time.
It's bigger, right?
His house, his office is bigger than my house.
So, okay.
So anyway, so in the past, there's been an initial review of the select board of these. I guess it's just to get a blessing to send it to the CIP committee, so that's why.
Well, I think it was also to brainstorm in case there was something like Heather said, like, hey, while we're at it, we should also submit one for the Eureka Center, because they need maybe a secondary form of heat, or they're gonna need insulation, so there'd be a capital request for that, or perhaps, hey, we're gonna need some AV equipment for the fire station, so there'd be a request. So it just, I think these came before the board, for that brainstorming component of it, and we didn't always have a town manager when we first set this up, I don't believe. So we were the ones who set it forth to the CIP, but
Right.
we were kind of gatekeepers, but now that we have department heads and yourselves, but,
Yeah, 'cause we vetted it.
yeah, I got a problem with
Right.
it. It's just,
So,
she might, or he might, or collectively we
Well, I
might want
just-
something else added to it,
Well,
is all
that,
we're at.
that's the other thing, that's what my other question is that if, after we have this conversation that we're going to have at a future date about Eureka, or if something else, like if that conversation happens and it needs to go to the CIP, is this a hard thing, like, these are in front of us today, nothing else gets to go?
No, you have time and perhaps,
You can do it.
yeah,
It's just that,
right. It's, perhaps what we do in the, like maybe next year is we have an agenda item where we discuss, do you have any capital requests that you wanna submit? I don't know how
So.
you all feel as a board member submitting those requests, I don't know.
No, I don't
I
wanna
don't-
do that, I just
Right.
wanna have a conversation, and then if something came up out of that conversation, I just wanna make sure we didn't miss the boat, is
Right.
what I'm getting at.
Right.
So like, when I actually found the CIP policy, and I read it, after I had sent that email, and it says that town committees can submit
Mhm.
requests. And
Okay.
so I'm wondering, do they know that they can in fact submit a CIP request to you? And if they don't know, that might be worthwhile having a conversation with them about, so that they could submit a CIP request for the things that they're trying to talk about here. And then that would go to the, versus them coming to this board, having this conversation, that isn't the process that's gonna get them in there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Your process is the correct one.
Right.
You're
It
100%
is.
right what
Yep.
you're saying.
Yeah.
You're
So-
100% right.
Like,
And that
that
was-
whole, the laundry list that I heard tonight
Right.
was what
That's a
should have
separate
been.
meeting.
That's a separate meeting, but that should have been
Right,
sent to
so-
Jerry, and Jerry should have said
Right,
that
so
to us.
that's where I'm going with my
Right.
line of
Yeah,
questioning.
100%.
If-
Yeah,
if-
you are.
The way I think it should go though is if they have a request, that should be funneled through. me.
Oh, I
Of
agree,
course,
yeah.
I just
And
think
then
we don't
then I can
know.
either, and as the manager, if I'm going, yeah, we're not gonna do that. Otherwise, if you're gonna do it all, then you don't need me.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah, we're not
No,
saying.
But I think they don't know that they can
Right.
make that request
I-
through you to the CIP. I think they think they need to come to us and ask us to
Right.
go do the floors over there.
It's probably in their
But if.
charter that way, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would only argue, the only thing, I wouldn't even argue, I would say that they would, they should have, like Kelvin, I believe, was appointed by you to be in charge of the buildings.
no, that was Mitch.
Or Mitch, either way,
Right.
Calvin has been appointed
Right.
at some level to be, so what I was getting at is, do these people know that their representative is Calvin, and therefore Calvin, they should be submitting to Calvin, therefore submitting to you, so
Yeah.
you can be, so I don't think they're tying in that piece,
Mm.
so like, quote unquote, I think that's what Heather's concern is, what she's trying,
Right.
forgive me if
I
I'm
get-
speaking to you.
And-
They have concerns and they need capital, but they don't, as a committee and the shepherds of that building, again, for lack of better words, they don't know how to do it.
Mhm.
And somebody hasn't really taken the time to explain that to them, and somebody should be doing
Yeah.
that. As with all departments, whether it's the historical component or Eureka Center or
Conservation Commission, anybody.
conservation,
Yeah.
all of them need to know how
Right.
they should submit for capital projects.
Right, I think like when the request goes out to the department heads, like, hey, I need all your
Sure.
stuff, it also goes out to the committees to say, if you need capital, if you need some, then now get it to me by X date.
Right, and I don't believe it's too late to do that. I mean, even though we're having a CIP meeting tomorrow night, it's not too late. I mean, the committee is, I'll say, they're pretty easy. It's not once we get these and read through them and then come up with our questions, we can continue to do that on some extra things that come in. I mean, the other thing that's gonna come in is the Union Church, right? We're gonna get an idea of what we might need there, which we don't know yet. That's an emergent issue that's gonna show up. If it gets here in time, CIP can vet it. If it doesn't, then it just comes into this board directly and we vet it that way. Cause we'll all have questions about that, of course, so, yeah.
And some things warrant a discussion.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know, I'm
Yeah.
not here to go over this stuff tonight, I mean, it's
No.
nice and it's presented and all that stuff, but, I was certainly in no position to ever challenge the
No.
fire chief on his or Calvin on his department, but, for example, the one thing I would challenge is, there should be a discussion on how we're gonna transform the town hall. That shouldn't just be, hey, we got a bid, I mean, nobody really knows anything about it, really, we just got a bid, you know what I mean? So there should be a discussion of, hey, this is what are our intentions, of what are we gonna use this meeting room for? Is it gonna be the new office for the town manager? Are we going over here? That way we look at this as a whole, rather than just some small facet of the component of what we're trying so we get the total picture and the total thing achieved, rather than just a Band-Aid that's probably gonna carry us over for 3 years.
I'm trying to find where it says that the town committees can submit capital improvement requests. That's, oh, I'm not paying attention. I'm just trying to see where I read that today.
And and if it does say that, it should say to a department head. It should be the department. I mean, you don't want every committee coming in here and
No, I
submitting
think the
requests.
chair of the committee, if they have a chair, for that, let me put that out there. If they have a chair, that they should annually
Yeah.
look at their, what they are in charge of, or what their charge is as an organization. And once a
Okay,
year,
I
they
found
should
it.
state they need X, Y, and present it in form, it doesn't have to be in this form, to you, and say, hey, Jerry, by the way, we had a little quick meeting, we'd like you to throw this at the board for us.
This is what the policy says. Applications will be submitted by department heads for capital expenditures related to their respective department. The town administrator may also submit CIP applications. Town committees may submit CIP applications following a review of completeness by the town administrator.
So that would be the town manager.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yep.
we need to rewrite that one and actually change the language to
Yeah.
town manager.
So that's what it says right now.
Right, but it's deeper than that, because.
Oh, absolutely,
Because there was administrative assistant to the board.
right.
Manager's different.
Yeah.
That- Like I said,
Right.
that needs to be
So-
that needs to be
Okay, that
redone.
needs
We
to
need to-
change.
We need to look at all of those.
I'm not trying to do your
No,
job.
no,
I'm
no,
just
I get
trying
it.
to follow the rules.
I get it, right, and I want us to follow the town manager form of government.
Absolutely.
Yep,
And it is a transition, I mean, and we've
Yeah.
been doing it over
but
the
I
years.
think it just needs to be vetted through you,
Right.
and then but they need to just, I agree, know that they should submit those requests to
Yeah.
you. And they need to be done in August. Maybe September.
We
but-
did it in September.
but they could do it
But we can-
now.
We can always move it up.
To move it, yeah, you could.
I think it's good, as long as, I think there's a
Yeah.
clear channel, right? Everybody knows
Yeah.
the path in
Yeah.
order to get something like our floors. You know, that's a big, that's.
That's huge.
Well,
unless you're
so
just
like
looking
what
for
happened
relaxing,
last
you
year
know?
at town meeting doesn't happen again.
Just no town meeting, I'm done.
No, like how the capital improvement request for, it didn't go before the board, and then so it didn't go to the CIP, and then blah, 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 and then it got put in a different spot in the budget,
Oh,
then,
yeah,
like
well.
that whole thing, right?
Yeah,
But if we
that- yeah.
if it's all out in the open and above up here, right from the get-go,
Right.
then those decisions can be made, and there isn't any
Right,
weirdness that happens at the meeting.
so, and that's why you see that's why you see the request for
Right.
that this time, because, I mean, let's face it, when I come in, it was budget season when I started. so
Right.
Yeah.
it's kinda-
No, that wasn't anything about
No,
you.
no,
Oh,
I
okay,
get it,
okay.
I get it, so it's gonna get better, I guess my point is, when you change forms of government, you got new people, there's growing pains as we go, and we're doing good. It's just, just kinda getting used to the change.
This one is for Chief, on
Uh,
his capital improvement.
Go ahead.
I know, well, I don't want you to sit here this whole night for nothing and not make it
I
worth
learned.
your while to have to ask you a question. I wasn't gonna ask the question, cause I
That's
think I
okay.
know the answer already, but the thing that you've put in for, is that like what they have at North Yarmouth? That's like the screen that says like active call and like this person, they're out, is that what that is?
That's truck-based. That is truck-based.
This is truck-based,
Yes, we
okay,
have what you're
Okay.
referring to. We have that. This is truck-based dispatch.
okay, thank you. Aren't you glad you stayed?
So do we,
Always.
So, I don't believe you
We
need to
don't have
vote
any-
or
there's no
anything, I just was.
action here.
I was-
No,
I was-
just- yeah.
Nope,
Yeah.
just
So I would
sharing.
But I do-
forward these along, and anything else that comes
I
into
do
the
think
CIP.
Heather, I think the biggest point being made during this lengthy conversation on CIP is that from a policy perspective, we need to start looking at transferring our policies over to a town manager.
We do.
It's
form of
actually, it's on
government.
my list of
All right,
things to have.
maybe we can talk about that a little bit in my manager's report.
Yeah,
Just
perhaps.
real quick,
Or
just
maybe-
Alright,
just
well,
real quick,
do we want-
because I got an idea.
Well,
All right, so-
Yeah, all right. We wanna go on, we're good with CIP?
Yeah,
CIP,
I'm
we
good
have a
with
bunch of
CIP.
projects, they're gonna move forward to CIP.
Thank you, everyone, for
Yeah.
entertaining all my line of
Yeah.
questioning, I appreciate it very
No,
much.
no problem. No, get this out there. Vacation policy,
Yes,
you
Drew,
had
I'll
a,
get a
you
good
you had
look at that.
updated vacation policy
It's-
that looks,
So the rates, so
It looked pretty much in line
So
with.
what I'm looking to do is take the yellow out and replace it with
Yep.
green. And basically, the reason why I wanna do it, vacation policy is usually based on hours worked, not days.
Mhm.
So, it just, when you do days, and matter of fact, the days here, the 4 days you talked about is 32 hours, and the 5-day work is 40. Well, it happens to be that nobody works 32 hours, there are some that work 40, but we got a 34-hour employee and a 36-hour employee.
Yeah.
So, the accrual rates are the same, I just wanted to display it better and prorate it to the 40 hours. So, if you work 36 hours, you can see in here how it works.
If you work 36 hours, your time is based off 36 hours.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Versus
exactly.
you don't get 40 if you work 32. Or
Right,
vice versa.
exactly.
Or vice, if you work
Absolutely.
40, you don't get 32.
We just
Right.
wanna
Yeah.
accrue it by the hours
Yep.
worked and not the days, that's all that
Yeah, I
does,
think
it's just a,
That's,
that's all I'm looking to strike in that one. Your sick time is fine, it's 1 day a month for everybody, it's all good,
okay,
but there was some current,
that looks pretty
That is a lot.
straightforward.
I only do 3.
what's that?
Sick time is 12 days.
12 days is a lot. I'm,
A year, yeah.
that's a lot. I give 3.
That's pretty generous.
The only
Maybe-
concern I had was the borrowing thing, but I completely trust your judgment on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I would be, if they're a decent employee, or, and, you know, they made it, or, cause you
Is
don't know.
there
the-
a probationary
you don't know what the-
window?
You don't
Is
know
it
what the
spelled out?
circumstances of people's,
Right.
so it's
Yeah,
kind of
like if you
case
get
by-
hired in April, but you already have a vacation planned in October,
Or if
or
there's.
whatever. I
or-
understand all of that. I'm just, is there like, you don't want somebody to come in, work here for 2 months and take a week off from work paid and then they just leave.
Right. they
That
wouldn't-
happens.
they-
Yeah,
right.
and so that's where my concern is
Well,
with
it's
the
I
borrowing
believe
ahead.
it's 90 days.
Yeah, there
It's
is
a
a,
90
Okay.
day, so
I
they can't take any
looked for that,
vacation up to 90 days, but it's
Yeah.
retroactive accruing from the day one if they make their
Right.
90-day
Yeah, yeah.
vacation.
I trust your judgment.
It's
Yeah,
not really
I-
much different than
it-
front loading
Right.
versus
Right.
accrual.
Right, so, you know, Chief and Calvin, they handle their own thing, I handle my employees.
But this,
So,
they follow this policy. This is
yes,
townwide. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a townwide. So it's just really, just changing it so it works, and we, okay. So then this gets to my management report when we get to it, why I wanted to talk about policy changes and how we go about that, so.
so we're all set
So,
on that.
well,
So
no,
this
you
is
need
just,
to, this is a policy change.
So we need to vote.
Just the verbiage, so you gotta like, either give me the okay, or,
I make a motion to approve the changes to the, what is it called? No,
proposed vacation accrual.
okay. Proposed vacation accrual? Is that what you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
A second for discussion, I did have a.
Okay, all right, I have a second, Rich, for discussion, and we're up for discussion now.
I just wondered, have we looked into, as of January 1, the new state mandates and so forth, and is this aligned
I'm not sure of the state.
as far as
Earn time?
PTO and things of that nature?
I think you have to employ 50 people.
You know, I don't, I'm not.
Oh, we do, because
We
the fire
do,
department.
yeah,
I
yeah.
apologize, you're right.
Are you talking about earn time?
Yeah, PTO, it's just, there's a lot of, let me just go this way. There's a lot of changes coming for 2024, am I right? We in 22 or 24?
23.
2024.
24
And I just
coming
wanted to
up.
make sure that we at least looked at those changes that are upon us, that whether or not they're applicable or not, I don't know, and I'm not saying any are. I'm just asking if we are looking at the new Department of Labor requirements as of 2024.
Yeah, I think there are some changes. I'm not sure how it reflects in what a town's or a state policy as far as what they're
I don't know
gonna
either,
give.
I don't know what the state's.
But I know there's been some earned time
Right.
changes, and Chief and I have talked with, about Mark recently, about earned time for.
Right.
for-
I think it's like
Policies.
mandatory paid sick leave.
I know, but we need to make sure this matches.
Matches that.
At
Right.
least the minimum matches.
I would
not-
hope
And we
12 days
will.
matches it.
And we will, we'll check it, we'll check it. This here doesn't follow the Fair Labor Law as it's currently written.
Is 12 days of sick time normal? Is that 1 day a month for sick time?
One day
Is
a
that-
month.
Yeah, that's usually about right. we,
Boy,
I-
I
I'm
might
with
have to revisit my policy. I feel
Yeah,
like,
I would
wow,
revisit.
that's a lot.
yeah, I mean, they've lumped it for us, lumped it
Your
all
policy's
into the.
changing on the 24th. Oh, you're under 50.
No, I
Yeah,
will,
yeah,
way
yeah.
under 50.
But they've lumped it in for us into one big lump. They've taken all that sick time for us and so they don't separate it any longer.
Yes, that's what I do.
And they,
Yes.
so it's just, but it is the 10 days or whatever it
And
is.
Yes.
a lot of organizations are going to PTO. It's
Right.
Right, that's
it's
what we
called
are.
paid
And that's,
time off.
that's
That's
why
what
I
he's-
wanted to see,
Yeah.
are we gonna go in, so 12 days of sick becomes 12 days of literally just, not necessarily sick, but just
Yeah,
paid time off,
Yeah.
that you're accruing a week vacation plus 12 days of paid time
Right.
off.
And-
Or are we deeming it
It-
quote unquote sick?
and then your rollover formula changes slightly due to it, or it doesn't have
I'm
to.
not saying this isn't
Yeah, no, that's, no.
cold water, I'm just asking if we
Yeah.
just looked at moving.
You know,
And-
and we can look at the PTO.
Sure, and then my last question with the discussion, if nobody else has anything, but when are we looking for this to take place?
ASAP, because we.
So as of tonight, if we vote this
Yeah.
up? Okay,
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
because
Can you explain how that works? So
Good
like
question.
if we did it effective tonight, right?
because the, so I'm
But
gonna,
people
I'm
have
gonna be
already taken
upfront
their
honest,
vacation
I'm
for
gonna be
this year.
upfront honest with you.
I hope so.
The accrual rates since I've been here haven't even worked for the new employees, because they didn't get put into Trio correctly, so they haven't even been
So-
accruing, right? So
But-
Mark took it over, right, so because the 4 and 5 days don't work, we kept the same, we're already doing this, folks.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, but just
We're
because
all-
it wasn't put in a trio doesn't mean it's not active, it's
Right.
based off the time of the day of employment.
Right, but you gotta figure that out on pen and paper,
Mhm.
because the program wasn't accruing it.
That's not
So-
rocket science, but I hear you.
But
It's
this
a little
isn't-
time, but it's
No,
not.
Rich, it isn't, but the 4 and 5 days doesn't work with our schedules, that's what I'm saying.
So how does this work? So for example, let's just say somebody was, when does it, if we make it active tonight versus the fiscal year or the calendar year?
So it's only for the new employees, so we only have to go back a couple of years. All of Calvin's employees was accruing correctly.
But like, let's just say this, I think this is what you're asking.
That's
You
exactly-
just went on vacation,
Yep,
and we're gonna make this effective today. Does your vacation start over today because you just took vacation?
no,
Okay, is that what you're
That's
trying to
what,
get at?
I don't understand the start stop, like, for example, like, let's just say your newest employee in office, we don't need any names. Newest employee in office, do they automatically get, as of this going into effect tonight, front-loaded 12 days?
No, they gotta
No,
earn
they-
it.
they don't get front-loaded 12.
They're not gonna get, right, even, or whatever, are they getting front-loaded, or are they getting, are we bringing them up to whatever the dollar per, or
But
the
they
hour?
should have been
the 1
earning
day
all
per
along, like, it
month.
hasn't been accruing, so we went back to the start date and used the hours that you worked
Yeah,
and calculate what you should have
right,
right now,
So
today.
we don't really need a date, is what you're saying.
No, we're already doing this.
That's all, that's all I was
Yeah.
looking for clarification.
So I just wanna get it in the policy, so we're kind of like,
So, given what Rich has said, do you want us to do this tonight, or do you wanna verify with labor law that,
no, cause it's not gonna change. This is already in.
Well, I mean, the
in
fact of
this
the matter
payroll
is,
system.
it may change, but you just changed the policy
Right.
on the first.
Okay.
Right,
You're just looking to get up to date as it is
Right.
now.
okay, I'm fine
Right.
with that.
because people like, just, Jessica works like 36 hours, so she gets 36 hours of vacation a year for the first year, and
Yep.
second year she gets 2 weeks, but it's 72 hours, but Alan's 34 hours, so he's different. So the only way to calculate it is based on the hours.
Yeah, 36 hours.
All right, we got a motion on the table to accept the proposed vacation accruals as presented by Jerry. I had Heather motion to do that, Rich seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, that's unanimous, 3-0. That passes, motion carries.
Good, thank you for that.
True up that vacation schedule. I could use a day.
Does make more sense, I'll grant you.
It does, yeah, oh yeah. When I read it, I was like, wow.
And I think that, well, I'm not even gonna
No,
mention
no,
that.
no, we're not going that way. Town manager's report.
All right, so let's stick with this policy discussion and how we enact our policy. And this is what I'm gonna suggest to you is, and just because we have brought it up. I think we need to do more workshops as a group to talk about these policies. because it's very hard to do in like a regular business meeting, because we're doing consent agendas or we're taking care of an issue here. And I think we have to start looking at our meetings and which ones do we wanna do workshops to talk about sick policy or vacation policy, and not be as part of a regular select board meeting. A lot of towns will do this, they will not do they'll take care of the regular business, but then they go into workshop mode and they hammer out these policies in a workshop.
So if it was workshop mode, are
Yeah.
we allowed to discuss things that aren't necessarily on the agenda? Yes, please sign me up because I wanted to talk about this, but I can't because it's not on the agenda.
Right, the agenda will say we're going into workshop to discuss whatever.
Something
Yes.
specific though.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Exactly.
can't just have a free,
Right.
Right.
It's not a
And I-
free-for-all.
Right.
Right.
And I can, if you folks have a policy that you wanna discuss, we can do that, or I can just look in there and say, we really need to update this, I can put it on, but those discussions, policy discussions should be done in a workshop and not a regular business meeting.
Agree.
Okay.
agree. One caveat is, the policies that we have in place should be somewhat screened, vetted, or whatever by yourself or the attorney. And before we even get to them, they should be revamped into the current form of government that we currently are.
Exactly.
Most of our policies are being of the town administrator, and I don't wanna be the one that's writing policy to switch from a town administrator to a town manager. There should be somebody, whether it's MMA or somebody, that can make that transition of those policies, and then we can tweak policies, whatever you choose liking, but the actual framework of taking policy from town administrator to town manager should be somebody on the municipal side and not necessarily the people at this board.
Right, I'll take care of
Thank you. That's all.
what that policy will be, because I can just beg, borrow, and steal from other
So,
towns and have to.
so that's what
Exactly.
so that's what you'd be presenting to us, something
Yeah,
that's
so we-
already in that
Like,
format,
for instance,
right?
we probably should have undesignated fund policy.
I was actually surprised Neil didn't add that to his list.
We should have some other ones,
Strong
just so we all
advocate of
are on the same page with that. and-
No question,
Right.
I would only be an advocate of getting the policies that we have in place up to par, up to par with the form of government that we are prior to taking on any new
Yeah.
actions, meaning get our policies up to par with us transferring over to, it's been a few years now,
Yeah.
we need to get our policies to the form of government that we are, which is a town manager, not administrator.
Right. I
So
agree.
those, I think, should take priority before we go on to revamping or rewriting or recreating new policy.
Okay, that's fine, 'cause I agree. We should-
My opinion.
Yeah.
Now, there's other, but
Right.
that should have already probably taken place. And I just don't think people really realize until you open up a policy of how many of them say, or town administrator, or this, like we have tonight. Those really shouldn't exist anymore.
Right. And some of those are gonna be really easy.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying, let's
Yeah, right,
knock those
right,
ones out,
right.
approve them, and then let's start
Right.
going after,
Right,
let's
absolutely.
take care of the,
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
So bad.
So just, I wanna give you an update on, so,
policy.
Solid Waste Committee met yesterday, it was a very good meeting, it was really the kickoff, so,
Okay.
it went good, it was a little longer meeting than I thought it was gonna be, but, that's fine, I'm not complaining, which is good, cause it was good discussion, and I think they're fired up, and, Kurt Dimick is your chair, and so they picked the chair, they picked the vice chair, they got a secretary, they've got the, contract that we've had, they've got the extension, they've got most of the information, and so we're pretty much ready to go, it's gonna be up to them on how much they wanna meet, when they meet. The first order of business, I believe, and I told them that we need to go out to bid,
Mhm.
trash collection. So here's what it is, here's what our tonnages have been in the past, just so they have the information and the data, and get familiar with what those costs are.
I mean, we have to do that anyway though, right, because we're going into
Mhm.
budget season, so that
Exactly.
makes sense if that's the next step.
Yeah.
Do you,
Yeah.
do we have to do anything, or you just
No,
take
I'll
all
take
that?
care of
Okay.
that, and then I'll let you know. So basically, what they're gonna do, and I can't remember the exact date that they're gonna meet, because I just said, take this, Paul, the RFP, look at it, if you think there needs to be edits, which I don't think there needs to be many, we're using the same one we always used. Just get familiar with it, and if there needs to be some edits, or you think, we can do that, and I wanna get that out, just before Thanksgiving. I'm gonna give them 3 weeks to bid on it, get it back in, so we have the information that we need going into budget. So that's where we're at. And, you know, that, as we get going and they get going, I don't know how often they're gonna have to meet. I mean, if they're gonna start looking at other alternatives, whether it's, I mean, one of the things they talked about was maybe a compost at Public Works. Because the whole idea with what's driving the cost is tonnage. Food is heavy.
Yeah,
Cat litter is much heavier when it's used, when you buy it, it's not as heavy as it is when it's used. If people are putting that in their garbage,
I would hope.
that's
Hopefully
driving
not.
up tonnage.
well, there's a
So with this-
municipality that just went to no wet garbage, no wet, like, they have to compost, and like all food, they have to compost.
You know,
How do you legislate that?
I know, I don't wanna
around that.
micromanage like that either,
I
but
know.
I'm just saying, that's the way that they're keeping their tonnage down.
well, how you legislate it is, okay, fine, but don't complain about the cost.
I haven't.
No, not you, not you, but that's what drives the
Well,
cost.
the trash pay does, right?
Right,
Thank
right.
God Josh isn't here.
Right, so it's interesting, cause, I looked at what we paid in the last 2 years was just shy of 300,000. So that we paid to Casella solid waste, not including the bulk
Yeah,
years.
I know, but I think the biggest component of that people always leave out is the crash of the recycling market. And that's usually one of the biggest things that they cite for why our cost has increased so much. When the recyclables is costing almost as much for us to get rid of this household trash.
No, they said more.
Or if not more.
It
yeah.
was,
So-
that's
so
why I kept
that's
saying,
the
like, it
problem,
pains
like-
my soul to say that it actually costs less to throw it in the regular trash than it does to
I
recycle it.
personally used to have a dumpster for like trash at some of my buildings and a dumpster for cardboard. The cost now is not, it doesn't work. Like you can really only have one dumpster.
Right.
Unless you got like a shredding company working for you or something, right? Because that recycling container will cost you more money than the trash container. You're better off just adding another 2 yards to your trash container and putting it all in that.
I do think one thing that they need to talk about, that, and maybe you can pass this along through them though, is, and it's a valid point that was brought up, and maybe it's the planning board that actually needs to address this to make sure that there's room when they do developments or whatever, but if we're going to the automated system, when they're designing subdivisions, they're not obviously accounting for the fact that trash cans have to have 3 feet of space between every single trash can. And so if we're going to that route, because that's what, if that happens, we go with Casella and they're saying that that's what's coming next, right? We're gonna do business with them. There's a whole nother thing that needs to be considered in that conversation.
Absolutely.
Every subdivision has a corral and
They
a bucket
should.
of trash
In a bin.
and a dumpster every month.
No,
Personally, I don't know what the answer is, I'm just
It's-
saying it
it's
needs to
hard.
be talked about.
Yeah.
It's
something-
tough, because we don't, unless we start adopting every road that's built, it's a tough, it's like,
Yeah.
you go to Swamp, I think you mentioned Ruby Lane, I mean, there's only like 7 houses down there, but if you go on there on trash day, I mean,
They're all at the end, yeah.
they're all at the
They're all
end.
lined up.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, most people have 2, so you
Yeah.
multiply 2, and if you get 15 houses in there,
Yeah.
that's 30, and then 3 feet apart for each one of them.
They'll be all the way up the
Down
street,
to-
yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a thing where, like, with the planning board, it has to be taken into consideration, there has to be a spot designated for a dumpster that needs to be in a dumpster enclosure, so it's not ugly, and then that's where the
Oh.
places are.
Yeah.
No, not if my husband fences them in.
I just had a big.
So part of their, you know, and I try to give them as much, it's like, do some research. There are other towns out there that have solid waste committees.
Mhm.
See what their agenda is, see what they're talking about. Some towns have solid waste ordinances.
Mhm.
Print one off, see what they're doing in their ordinance. Not that you're gonna draft an ordinance, but I think it'll help guide conversation
Right.
as we try to get our
I know that
hands
I was
around what we're
referring
trying
to
do.
North Yarmouth a lot, and they're using 3 different things, Eco Lane, Casella, and I can't remember, the garden to food, I don't know, whatever
Yeah,
it
they're
is.
doing one of the
Little
food
green
things,
trucks.
yeah.
Little
Yeah,
Yeah.
they come and get all their compost, and
All
then
of it.
they make bags of compost out of it, whatever,
Mhm.
anyways. And I don't know how many residences they have versus how many we have, but their cost to Casella is like a third of what we pay to Casella. So,
Yeah, I know that.
I think that that's why I want that. I don't have time to do that,
So
but I
Kurt-
want those people
Yeah,
to
Kurt
do
well,
did
there's a lot,
this.
there's a lot of people that wanna do that composting. I've heard from a couple people that
Yeah,
are
and
interested in
the
that,
thing I
which-
was saying about the school can't get the grants through Eco Maine
And some people just
because
wanna throw it
Durham
back.
isn't part of Eco Maine, but Freeport and Pownell are. So like they do all kinds of stuff with the school and give grants and all of that, but the RSU 5 won't go after that grant money because they can't do it in all three towns and it has to be equal across the board. But because we're not part of it, they can't access those grant dollars. So it's that kind of stuff that maybe I should just send you an email with like,
Yeah.
we'll check.
There's a really, Kurt Dimmick, who runs
Eric
there,
Dimmick, chairman.
he's the chairman, yeah, he's gonna be a really good resource
Mm.
for this town and community. He's pretty knowledgeable on that stuff.
He's been in the
knows
business a
what-
long time.
He has.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be,
Knows it.
it's pretty awesome, actually. So that's been kicked off, and there'll be more information as they develop it. But the first order of business is definitely getting that RFP out and getting some budget numbers back so we can. And again, it's hard with tipping fees in the commodity, the recycled commodity, it's gonna be difficult to nail down exactly what that is, but we can get a pretty good budget and then go out to bid, so that shouldn't be a problem this year. Cause last year was nip and tuck there for a while, cause I didn't even know the contract was running out, so I'm like, I wonder when that contract runs out, and I did some digging, I'm like, oh my god, that runs out this year, so.
Yeah.
Another thing that I want you to be, so 12/26, that's the day after Christmas, that's a select board meeting day. So what I would like to do in that week, if you wanna meet on that day, that's fine. I know it's the day after Christmas, there's holidays. If you wanna be flexible, I'm okay with going, the Wednesday or Thursday. But that week, I wanna bring Mark in and go over the budget, because there was a lot of questions from Milt and Neil Berry about the undesignated funds and their understanding of it, and it's complicated, I think they were kind of misunderstood on how it really works. I mean, Mark wrote what would have been like a 3-page email to him explaining it, so Neil would like to talk to Mark. I just think that we need
So
to
you're
do
proposing
this.
that to be a workshop day?
That's a workshop
Okay.
one, yes. So, and it'll be solely to have Mark explain what this stuff is, so there's a little bit better understanding going into budget season. I think that is extremely important.
It was actually on my list of things to ask for, was to have Mark come and do, is that something we could also invite the budget committee members to?
Yes, they
to-
will,
So
yes,
that we can have they can ask questions and get answers in real time?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm absolutely an advocate of that, it's on my list tonight.
My only, I'm a big advocate of that, my only thing would be that, I can't remember the last time, but that week is usually tough for a lot of people on
It
vacation
is.
that week, whether it's him or whether it's people from the budget committee. Sometimes I think the week before that, we moved up that, maybe we had the select board meeting the week prior, took the school vacation week off, cause so many people are unavailable that
Mhm.
week, and then just transferred to the next meeting the next week, and then follow up with another one, because that, you get low turnover if you have, that to me, that's a very important, workshop / guest speaker, for lack of better words
Yeah.
to making sure people aren't afforded, everybody's afforded the opportunity to try
Yeah.
to be there.
Do we
Yes,
need to wait that long? I mean,
we-
it doesn't have to be number specific, it can really be like,
John,
like an under, even if he used round numbers, right? It doesn't have to be like, this is the number in our bank account. It's more
No, no,
like
no,
an
it's-
understanding of how it all works together.
And given the experience that I had last year with doing the budget, I would like to do it as close to the budget season as possible, so it's remembered.
oh, so why not do it in like, early part of 2024?
We could do it, we could.
I'm just saying, I think it's warranted, I think you should do it,
Oh,
I just think
agree.
I wouldn't do it during the week of Christmas.
Why
is
don't we
all
do
I'm
the
saying.
19th?
Okay, that's fine, we can do it the week, like you said, the week before.
The week before,
I
or the
just
week-
saw that select board meeting was on the 26th and I didn't like it.
No, we should move that, well, probably, we can do that as a
Yeah. I want you
consensus
to
as a
think
group
about it.
next time we
Next
meet.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll probably end up moving, my guess is we'll move that meeting, it's not fair to the staff, it's not fair to you,
Right.
we're not gonna.
I just will tell you right now that I will be available no matter what one you pick, period.
Christmas,
Okay.
there it is.
I'm here.
Let's talk about it when the whole board
Yep,
is here.
that's fine.
And
That's
I
fine.
agree.
I would say maybe the week is ahead, but we can talk about it when everybody's
We
here.
could have a week
Yeah,
ahead somewhere,
do-
just
I-
not the week of Christmas.
Yeah,
that's
and I
fine.
do appreciate the whole getting it close to the 2024
Right.
period, so, I mean.
I
even-
feel like
even
our
the- even-
normal budget
e-
meetings are the January meetings anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm thinking even stuff a meeting in January, because the only thing I get nervous about when we go backwards, which is what you're kind of getting at, Jerry, is you want to do it as close to budget season. When we go back before Christmas, everybody goes on 10 days of Christmas and New Year's, and they forget. So I do agree that maybe into January might even be better. I don't know,
Yeah.
rather
Like
than before.
The Christmas week,
yeah.
if we have to have a meeting that week, it should be like, what 3 select board members are here to come in and sign a warrant?
Yeah,
Hold a quick meeting, you don't even need Jerry to be here, you come in, you turn the damn thing off, you don't even have to turn that on. You
right.
sign the warrants and you get out of here,
Right.
conclude the meeting.
Perhaps the next meeting, if
We'll
all,
pick it out next
all
meeting.
five,
Yeah.
I will bring in the schedule
Okay.
too,
Yeah.
and we can go over
Go
that.
over the whole
we can go over the
schedule that you are-
schedule of
Yeah.
what the dates are to get
Yeah,
stuff done, because it's important, because we run it, we're tight.
It's tight, that's what
yeah,
I'm
it
saying.
is,
I
it
would-
is
So-
tight, but.
It's really,
When's the first
especially,
budget meeting?
it's, I swear
Budget-
they're in
Excuse me.
January.
Yeah, they are, but when, do you have an idea, because really, if we're including and making this, we want maximum participation.
Yeah.
We should try to work within the 2 organizations, so with the 2 entities, to say we try to, what's a good day that works for everybody?
Yep.
That's fair,
You know what I mean?
Yep.
for sure.
But I don't think the week of, all I'm saying is, I don't think the week of Christmas is the day to do it.
Perfect. I'm all down with that. I just, I didn't know how you.
I wouldn't even want
that.
Mark to come in on that's, I know,
Right.
it's just not.
Yep,
So when we'll discuss it, we'll nail it down.
yep,
Okay, that's all I really.
Yeah.
That's what you had?
That's all I really got, yeah.
okay,
So yeah, number 8 was it?
we're good? All right, let's see, any agenda items for the next select board meeting? Heather?
So on my list, I had the Eureka discussion, which we already talked about, so if we
Yeah.
can put that on, or not the Eureka discussion, maybe we wanna call that like the CIP,
Or-
Eureka technology upgrades, or how that's playing out. What are we calling that conversation?
How about just the town
About,
office?
future,
Meeting space,
future
future
town
meeting
meeting,
space?
future town meeting place, whatever.
Space,
Yeah.
Do you want a request going to CIP for upgrades, technology upgrades to Eureka, because I can throw that
No.
together.
No.
It's not necessarily that, it's
No.
that, it's to, if we're gonna change the idea that narrative has been that is going to become our meeting space and the reason for the upgrades, right? If that's no longer the plan, I wanna have a conversation about that and then establish what the new plan is.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking for.
yeah, that's about right, yeah, it's the plan, what's the plan for the spaces, and how does that fit into the budget?
Okay,
And then your request comes out of that, for monies.
okay.
And then my other things were policies and procedures, which we touched on tonight.
Yeah.
I had a specific one that I wanted to address, about a remote participation policy.
Yep,
We had talked about that during budget season when I was on vacation and I was able to participate remotely, but void of a written policy per board, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. I have the email, the legal opinion, all of that, but I would like to get a policy on the record so that, like, for instance, tonight, Josh could have potentially participated remotely from where he is, but we don't have that policy in existence, so I wasn't even gonna
Yep.
anyway, so I would
there's
like.
one out there that's all drafted, ready to go.
Yeah, so if we could do policies and procedures and like set the workshop thing that we talked about this evening, the schedule of when we're gonna do them, and then specifically the remote participation policy,
Okay, so let me just do that one.
and then the fee schedule, and I know I'm asking for a lot all in one meeting.
Yeah, plus I've already got.
It's a
couple
discussion.
things.
Fee schedule is just a discussion, not
Yeah.
like I wanna change numbers.
Okay.
I feel like we keep kicking that can down the road and I really wanna get on it.
Okay, I can see the Eureka taking some time,
Yep,
Yep.
I
Okay.
can see that one,
those are my requests. Do with them what you will.
okay.
Anything else for agenda items?
Doesn't mean you gotta get them all next week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There are a couple that we gotta do, so. Well, look, I'll just kind of
Yeah.
look at it.
Thank
I
you.
mean, and you can always look at the agenda, and I mean, you can amend it if you want before the meeting, you know.
See what it
you can
looks
always
like,
say,
and we can go
"Geez,
from
Janet,
there."
you know, can we wait or whatever, feel
Yep.
free to do that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
partly why the 12 Rabbit Road was sent back there. That's because there were one of you folks that came in and said, you know, that really ought to go to the Board of Appeals, and so I'm like, yeah, you're right. So don't be afraid to reach out to me if there's something that you think is, you know,
Okay.
all right?
Yep. Anything else? All right. Okay, move on to consent agenda.
There's one thing that's different in there though, folks,
What's
is the
that?
wardens for her, Jessica's election. Did you see those?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
We need to,
You just need to appoint them, so motion.
okay, do we have a motion
Is that
to,
not on here?
Can I just ask a question? So I wasn't at the October 10th meeting, and
Mhm.
typically when that happens, we don't vote to approve the minutes if we weren't at the meeting. But if I don't vote to approve the minutes, we don't have 3 people, so how would you like to handle that? What should we do? I mean, I will vote if you tell me that that's the right thing to do, but typically, if we're not at the meeting, we don't vote to approve those minutes.
We can
we
do
can
it.
just wait on,
You can
we
wait
can
on
wait
Josh
next
and
meeting
that's what
and
you
just
should
wait
do.
for the
So I
right
gotta- I
folks to
gotta
be
make
back.
sure that
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with the minutes, but,
No.
yeah, I don't think there's, I don't know if there's any,
I don't know if there's any legal thing that says you have to be there to say that you can't approve.
approve the minutes, yeah, that,
If there was an
mean-
argument that there was something wrong with them, then, yeah, but we're just approving them so they can be published.
Published.
We
Yeah.
look into that, just to see.
But it'd be nice to know going forward,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
perhaps if Josh would say, Josh, next meeting is not here, that means it's gonna be another meeting before,
Right.
because Heather nor Joe were here that meeting either, so I think it's just a matter of approving them for them to be released,
But that's a good thing.
yeah.
but just,
I
I'm
think
not
it's
hundred
just,
percent
a-
sure.
yeah, if it's just a proofread, then that's not really a big deal, right? I mean, meaning if we're just doing it just
That's
to
really
make
all it
sure,
is.
yeah,
It's just-
if it all it is, ends up to be is a proofread, then,
Because Heather could say, hey, I wasn't here, but on these meetings, could you describe this for me? The
Right.
answer's given, and she might feel good with that answer and say, okay, I'll
Yeah.
approve the meetings.
but
It's
no,
not-
that's fine, we can leave that out of the consent
you know,
agenda for this
it's not
meeting.
gonna make it official.
So we're gonna take that to approve the select board meeting minutes will be taken out of the consent agenda. So do I have a motion to appoint our 2 wardens for, do we need to take, we probably need to take these separately. So do I have a motion to appoint, or I should say, I'll make a motion to appoint our 2 wardens, Nancy Swinton and Catherine Curtis.
So moved.
Upcoming elections, yep, John,
Second.
all right. Heather moved, Rich second. Any discussion? No? All in favor? All right, motion passes thank you to our wardens, helping us out.
Yeah, a lot of towns are struggling with it.
Yeah, no, we need more wardens, so. Second thing will be consent agenda is to approve the payroll, the warrant article. Do I have a motion? Rich moves.
Second, sorry.
Second, Heather. All in favor? Excuse me, motion carries. All right, consent agendas. Upcoming meetings, let's see, CIP meeting tomorrow night, 6 PM at Town Hall. Select board meeting, 11:14 and 11:28, usual time, 6:30 at the Town Hall. And we have a planning board meeting on November 1st at 6:30 at the Town Hall. We have any reason for an executive session this evening? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, we got Rich and Heather a second, and all in favor, we're adjourned.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the one I signed?
Yeah, you got all sign those.
I know.
This pen ran out, so,
Did Jessica leave?
no, I think she
No,
probably
it should
Oh.
be signed off. Lights are still on.
Neil has nice paper. I feel it.
You broke up the resume paper.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
Hang on.
Are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on.